All right, it is 11:05. Thank you for your patience while we're working out the technology, but I'm going to go ahead and call this Elyria Planning Commission meeting to order on December 6, 2022, here at 11:05. We'll start with a roll call.
Tom Aden.
Here.
Sam Battle. Barry Hubbard.
Here.
Jim Onderko.
Here.
Dawn Calvert. Mayor Whitfield.
Here.
Derek Tedrow. I've heard word from Derek and Sam that they will not be here today.
Thank you, Secretary Ballard. We will ask each one of our presenters today if they would like to move forward. We do have a quorum today, so you can move forward or you can request the full body to be here. But we'll start off with our board for approval of the minutes from November 1. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hubbard. Second by Mr. Aden. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We have a couple public hearings. The first one is for LM Property, 402 Cleveland Street, Elyria, Ohio, requesting a variance pursuant to Chapter 1175.08 of the Elyria Codified Ordinance for construction of utility building of reasonable size. Is there someone from LM Property here? Please come up to the microphone, and if you have other folks with you, they can come up as well and describe the project. Oh, right over there. Yep, describe your project and what you're hoping to do.
Yeah, the project I'm proposing is
Could you state your name and address for the record?
Donald E. Lear, 235 Harwood Street, Elyria, Ohio.
Thank you.
And the project I'm proposing is a two-story garage. It's really not two-story. It's just a large garage for parking, a snow plow, all sorts of maintenance equipment as far as a lawnmower, snow blower, probably an area to hold some materials while working on projects on the property. And that's pretty much what I was hoping to do. So I know I had the architect draw stuff up, and I think he might have went a little overboard. But if I can get what he proposed, I'd be happy with that. So.
All right, thank you, sir. And please stay here. So can you tell us a little bit about the business you're operating and what you're hoping? I'm assuming this is associated with some sort of business.
Actually, yes, it's a multi-use property. There's a house on the one part, and attached to that is two separate business areas, possibly three separate business areas. I don't run any of the businesses, but I do manage the property. It's my property. So as of right now, there's a dog groomer in there, and then I have a tenant in the house, which is a two-bedroom house. So.
All right, thank you, Don. Let's hear a report from our staff. I'll start with Chief Farkas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For clarity, the application that was originally submitted indicated a variance request with a comment of refer to attach A. Attachment A is actually my design review report that listed many other variance needs, not only the one that is being proposed today for section 115603A. So my report is geared towards all comments, so the board has a full scope of what's being proposed. The request. It is assumed the proponent is requesting multiple variances from the Elyria Codified Ordinance for the adjacent site referenced, as listed on the design review report dated 5/27/22. The request would be to construct a garage 20 by 30 on a vacant parcel of land directly adjacent to the address listed. Zoning. The site is currently zoned Business Neighborhood District, the requirement of which can be located in the Elyria Codified Ordinance, Chapter 1156. It is the purpose of the Business Neighborhood District to permit and encourage the establishment of small convenience businesses and personal service businesses to be located in close proximity to residential areas which they are serving. The location of a business neighborhood district and the nature limited to the commercial activity should be developed to avoid traffic congestion from the surrounding residential neighbor areas, Principally permitted uses include childcare facility, clubs, educational institutions, financial institutions, neighborhood retail business, non-commercial recreation, offices, personal services, religious place of worship, restaurants, provided the seating capacity is limited to not more than 20 people, and any other use determined by the building inspector. I have listed the permitted accessory uses as follows. A, any use customary and incidental to the permitted use, which means the site, as an individual parcel, must first have a primary structure in order to have an accessory structure like a garage or a shed. So right now, this is a vacant piece of land, and they're asking for an appeal just to build the garage with no primary business. B, signs as regulated in Chapter 1173 and 1174, and it also states accessory uses other than signs and fences shall be located in the rear yard only, located not closer than 6 feet from any lot line, and covering not more than 35% of the required rear yard. Staff findings. The proposed structure is to be located on a vacant lot, parcel number 06250171010-025, and requires a variance from Elyria Codified Ordinance 1156.03A as the site lacks a principal use, i.e. home business. I recommend the zoning not be granted. Number 2, the proposed structure is to be located 3 feet 11 inches from the east side property line at its closest point, 4 feet and 7/8 of an inch from the west side property line to the closest point of the property, and 4 feet 8 inches from the rear lot line. Per the Elyria Codified Ordinance, Section 1156.03 requires accessory uses and structures be at least 6 feet from the property line. I recommend the zoning not be approved. Findings continued. Number 3, the proposed structure would cover 69% of the required rear yard for the parcel. For the Codified Ordinance, Section 1156.03 requires accessory structures cover not more than 35%. Number 4, proposed height of the detached garage calculates 27 feet 2 inches per the Codified Ordinance. Accessory uses require that they exceed not more than 15. I recommend the zoning not be approved. Note, separate OBC new application required for the new structure prior to installation. Number 2, possible fire separation concerns due to the close proximity of the structure to the property lines contingent upon the proposed use once determined. Staff recommendations. I am not in favor of this request due to the multiple unknowns listed herein. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Farkas. My question for Mr. Lear, did you meet with our building department prior to this request?
No, sir. Like I said, all I had was the architect draw it up, and I kind of had some faith in him that he was going to get it somewhat close to where it was okay to do it. I know I originally discussed with him that I wanted it done in concrete blocks, so it might eventually eliminate the possibility of any fire concerns.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably my main thing. So I did turn the paperwork in, obviously, to get the variance request to happen. You know, I turned the blueprints in. So.
Mm-hmm. So, Chief Farkas, do you think there's any way that if we kind of worked with Mr. Lear, that there could be a potential solution, or due to the constraints that exist within that site, is it going to be a far stretch to try to pull off a garage there?
It would be the latter of your comment, because it's so confined. It evokes so many needs, not only from a zoning perspective, but the switching of the hats to the building code enforcement of fire rating. If, as the applicant indicated, the structures that have block walls, that solves half of the problem, because now we get to the roof structure, which also has to be properly fire rated. So it's not impossible, but if the zoning were approved, we would have to definitely look at what the building is used for, because that could evoke another variance request. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm not in favor.
Thank you, Chief Farkas. I think, one thing, Mr. Lear, I think, I appreciate you making your own investments to try to get these architectural drawings and get, this presented before us. And, in my mind, I'm just thinking about, you've already put all this energy into this. And I think it's always important for folks to come meet with us prior to, just so that when you're going on these journeys, you don't waste your time or money going down a path that may be, and there could be an alternative. Mr. Taylor, you're gonna jump in.
Excuse me, Mayor. Yes, through you, Mayor. So normally this would go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and this happens all the time where they try to put a building on a vacant lot that's not attached to a house. What we've done in the past to at least move it to the next level is suggest they combine that empty lot with a lot that has existing structures. Sort of like the house and the garage idea. If you have a house here and a garage here, combine the lots. Now you can have a garage because it's on the same lot as the house. That solves that portion of the problem, and the Board of Zoning Appeals wouldn't even hear this unless you did that first, because we've never passed one where we just let you build separate structures that are uninhabited on a lot. The second thing, then, we would work, again, you talked to Darrell, and Darrell and I talked about this a little bit. Then we have to look at, as you just said, Mayor, the brick and the roof, and there may be some possibilities with variances, but this would probably be best to be at the Board of Zoning Appeals and not in front of the Planning Commission, but work with Darrell first, so that everybody understands. I've known Mr. Lear since I was a kid, and I'd be glad to sit down and talk with him and work with him, but I don't think it's appropriate at this time for us to pass something like this because of those concerns and because of the main issue. We've never allowed a building just to sit on an empty lot that's not a structure or a business.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any other comments?
Just if I might, I guess, ask questions of Mr. Farkas, then, based upon Mr. Taylor's comments. Am I correct in understanding that part of the issue here is that although this lot is adjacent to another lot that's co-owned that has a specific primary purpose, this one itself doesn't, and as long as they remain as separate parcels in essence, at any point the garage could be sold off as its own piece. Is that?
That is correct.
Okay.
I have one additional question, Mr. Farkas. It sounds like the intended use would be a commercial garage, and I'm wondering if that is qualified under the business neighborhood designation, or would we need to even take a step further back and take a look at the zoning of that specific parcel?
Through you to Dawn, that was one of my initial review questions, is what is the use of this space? Because it kicks into the building code of potential storage, could be flammable uses, could be who knows what. That also, in the eyes of the building code, evokes many other questions of separation and fire rating, because this lot is very unique. It's quite confined, especially where it's to be located. It doesn't leave many options, but the first step of zoning, the business neighborhood does permit some storage if it's akin to whatever business it's going to be joined to. If it's, let's say, dog grooming, and they want to put, hey, I'm going to use it for tire storage, not the same use, not what it's intended. So this could go down the rabbit hole of many other questions.
Mr. Aiden.
I have a question so I think I couldn't hear real well, but it's neighborhood business, is that what it's currently zoned as?
Business neighborhood, yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. And what's the height requirement for a neighborhood business, secondary structure?
The accessory uses defers to the code section of 15 feet.
15, is that what you said?
15, 1-5.
Okay. And so I don't think I'd approve it personally if it's like 27 feet. I think that's incredibly nice to have, but too excessive to butt next to a neighborhood.
So, would you like to move forward today, Don, with a vote, even though we don't have a full body, but we do have a quorum?
Might as well. I mean, I see the chances are pretty slim, and I'll just have to probably figure out my next move as far as possibly doing whatever is required to possibly get it done, but feel free to take the vote.
You can also, Don, withdraw it and come back and apply after doing a little more homework. It's your call. I'm not telling you what to do.
Right.
Did you hear that? He said you can also withdraw it as well. But the other piece that I wanted to make sure you know, like, the staff is available to work with you, so you don't, you're not shooting in the dark on anything moving forward.
Okay, I'll tell you what, perhaps I'll just withdraw then. Might be the best bet.
Do we have to have any formal action for that? If he withdraws? Okay. All right, Mr. Lear, well, let's make it a point to sit down together and with the staff and see what our options are to move forward, all right?
All right, very good,
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you. Next, we have, the next public hearing is for 112 and 116 North Gateway Boulevard, Elyria, requesting a variance, of the Elyria Codified Ordinance for a lot to be used for stored vehicles, to store vehicles. Is there a representative from 112 and 116 North Gateway Boulevard? I can make sure we're speaking into the mic a little better, too.
I don't see one, but I know the applicant, he lives out of state.
Got you. All right, we'll start with a staff review. We'll start with Chief Farkas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The request, the proponent is requesting a variance for a used car sales on several vacant lots of land at the area listed. The specific request is in regards to Elyria Codified Ordinance, Section 1175-08A, parking facilities development, maintenance, surfacing. Zoning. The sites are currently zoned business automotive oriented district, the requirements of which can be found in Chapter 1162 of the Elyria Codified Ordinance. The requirements for off-street parking and loading are per Section 116211 via Chapter 1175. Note, vacant parcels converted to parking prior to approvals. Number one, any building or structure used or land, when erected or enlarged, shall be provided for off-street parking spaces for motoring vehicles in accordance with the following provisions of this chapter. A parking plan shall be required for all uses. The parking plan shall be submitted to the city as part of the application for a building permit. The plan shall show the boundaries, the property line spaces, access drives, circulation patterns, drainage, construction plans, boundary walls, fences, screenings, plans, etc., where appropriate. I have put on the memo and highlighted specifically the code sections that were listed on the design review report and provided to the applicant that are not listed as part of the request, which is Section 1175-01. Number two, off-street parking spaces shall be provided either in a garage or a parking facility located on a premise intended to be served or serving a non-residential use permitted in a residential district. I listed this section for the board's use to show what a parking plan is supposed to look like in regards to dimensions, distances, aisles, parking stalls, etc., none of which we have as part of the submittal. Number two, continued, per the plan submitted, none of the information required has been provided. That is 1175-02. More information needed. As of today's date, that information has not been provided. Number three, every parcel of land hereafter uses public or private parking shall be developed and maintained in accordance with the following. I listed A through L for the board's use, as every section one of those evoke another need for variance. But on number A is what the request is before the board now. Everything in blue is what also should have been requested. Rather than go through all these, ladies and gentlemen, you can see just the highlighted in bold B, the minimum distance and setbacks. This goes into the setback requirements adjacent to residential districts. They never did provide that setback. I know it's too close. And for the board's use, this is a complaint that we received a year or two ago and is in municipal court being heard. The applicant is trying to get an appeal. But unfortunately, the appeal would address one issue, not the remaining listed in blue.
So Chief Farkas, so what this, and I'm just trying to summarize what I think I'm seeing and reading. What this, in essence, points to, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's just certain parts of the city where certain uses just don't make sense. And I think that really speaks to this whole comprehensive land use work that we're going to be doing so that people recognize beforehand that, hey, this plot of land makes the most sense for this sort of use, and so that people don't waste their time. And in this case, I think correct me if I'm wrong, it looks like the business has already been using it as this use, though it shouldn't be used as this use until this body had made an action. So the person is here. Is there any questions from the staff before we go to a vote on this? All right. Is there a motion to get it on the floor? A motion to get it on the floor? And is there a second to get it on the floor?
A second.
Second by Ms. Calvert. All those in favor, please say aye. Hold on, I'm sorry. Are there any proponents? Are there any proponents? Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Any opponents? Any opponents? All right, it's already been, Barry, you got something?
I was just asking Mr. Taylor if there's any issue with going ahead without having a full quorum and without having the proponent here to waive.
Yeah, we're good, though. So we have, it's been motioned and seconded. Oh, please, Dr. Scott.
Through you, I also would like to note that if this does happen to get approved, it would also require a waiver of the design review guidelines because it is not asphalt or concrete, and it does not have the continuous poured concrete curbing.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, nay. Nay. The request has been declined unanimously. Our last public hearing is from Target, 240 Market Drive, Elyria, Ohio, requesting a variance pursuant to Chapter 1174.12 of the Elyria Codified Ordinance to replace one wall sign, install one additional wall sign, and attach one window sign on the building for customer wayfinding purposes. If there's a representative for Target here, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Good morning. My name is Jeffrey Immel. I work for Kimley-Horn. We are the representative for the Target Corporation today. Now, what this request really is to improve and clarify the online ordering experience for Target's customers. If you're unfamiliar, Target offers several different online ordering services, mainly the order pickup and the drive-up services. So these are services where you can order items online or through the Target app, and then you either select order pickup, which you go to the store, walk through the main entrance, speak to associates inside to get your items, or the drive-up service, which you park in a designated drive-up space off to the side from the entrance, and then the Target employees bring the order out to you. So what we're requesting today, and I noticed that there may have been a little confusion in the application here with the numbers of the signs and the variance that we're requesting. And staff can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the replacement and the window sign, I believe we can do by right. Is that correct? The replacement of the sign and the addition of the window sign?
I think he's referring to under design review, the placement sign was approved, and it's what they're up for now is what is under, they're looking for a variance for that specific aspect. So yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So we'll just go through all the signs that are existing and that we're replacing. So the main Target sign over the entrance, that will just be replaced. We have that approval through design review. At the entrance as well, we're proposing to add a order pickup sign, and that is a window sign. That's just a vinyl sticker, basically, that goes on the window. The CVS pharmacy sign on the front elevation will remain, and on the rear elevation, that Target bullseye will also remain. So the sign that we're adding, that we're here today for a variance, is that drive-up pickup sign. Now, the drive-up pickup sign and the order pickup signs, those are important to have because these are two different services and they're located in two different areas of this large lot. So for order pickup, in order to correctly direct customers, we need that at the entrance of the store, which is where you go to use that service. And the drive-up pickup sign is located where the drive-up parking stalls are and or will be. So that's really what it is, to help improve traffic flow and direct customers to where they need to go. The variance is for the number of signs too, I'd like to add. And if we were to combine these all into one sign, technically, we would be allowed by right, based on the square footage.
Thank you. Chief Farkas, you want to give a staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The proponent is requesting a variance from section 1174.12B1 to B to install an additional sign on the site listed. I've listed the code requirements. In a nutshell, what the code is saying is, in order to add an additional sign, you're allowed 3 per building. They're adding another sign to make it 4. The square footage is not in question, as more so is the number of signs on the structure. With that, I am in favor of the request.
Thank you, Chief Farkas. Any questions from the panel? If not, can I get a motion to get on the floor? Moved by Mr. Aden. Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any other proponents? Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Any other opponents? Okay, empty room here. All right, so is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Calvert. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yeah, are you okay with us? Thank you, y'all keeping me in shape. Are you okay with us moving forward, though we don't have a full body, but we do have a quorum?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Do the second and motion. All right, can I have a motion to get on the floor? Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We do
Thank
have
you.
one more, yes, and thank you for continuing to invest in the store. Please send our thank yous to the folks at Target for investing in their store.
Will do.
We have one planning commission case here to discuss, and it's the vacation of Merchants Alley between Washington Avenue and Kerstetter Way. Dawn, do you want to give a kind of overview before the report on what this is?
Yes, thank you. So this is with regards to the esports arena. There are multiple parcels involved in that project, and to be able to move forward with plan design submittal, we really need to have a lot consolidation or replat of those lots to avoid multiple variances that just, quite frankly, don't make sense with the project. So there is the alley between Washington Avenue and Kerstetter Way, which is a city-owned parcel of land, which we are proposing to vacate that in order to allow this project to move forward. The owner owns all adjacent properties and has waived their right for public notification. And I would defer to all staff members to provide their comments on how this may impact, the city by vacating this street. Thank you, Director Calvert. Who do you want to start with? Chief Farkas, do you want to start with this?
Mr. Chair, from what I understand, these are consisting of either 6 or 7 parcels, and the intent was to consolidate all parcels into one cohesive section of land. That will have to be heard again through Planning Commission. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, as far as potential replat. But that's the only concern I have from the zoning aspect, is that it will need to be consolidated. Thank you.
Engineer Schneider.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only concern engineering has is in regards to some of the utilities that run down the Merchants Alley. The city utilities that run down there are minimal and are really just for those buildings, so to vacate it is not an issue. We did not receive as far as what other utilities are there or plan to be there. I think during the construction process, in the full design, something will need to be determined as far as what stays, what goes. I know there's telephone that runs down there, there's gas that runs down there. I think the electric's on the buildings itself, which is not an issue either. But I'm in favor of moving forward with it. The biggest thing is, like you said, I know as part of the plan, they're looking to put an elevator in, they're putting stairs in, and some equipment back there. I just don't want to see them on top of existing utilities, so they'll have to move those. But other than that, I'm good.
Assistant Chief Gall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fire department never utilized Merchants Alley as an access road, so it would have no impact on us.
Okay. I wondered about that. That's good. Any questions from the panel here?
My only
Tim?
comment, obviously, it's a project we want to go through with, and I think vacating the street is fine, but I think we have to have subject to the replat so that we can, our rule is Darryl can only go up to 5 lots. We're over the 5 lots. I don't believe anybody's submitted, unless Dawn knows, has anybody submitted the replat of this that's going to show the one parcel and the utilities?
To my knowledge, they have not. However, I was under the belief that the vacation had to be done before.
Yeah, I said, we can vote on the vacation of the street, but it would be subject to the replat, being filed, because when you vacate a street, you have to give the land to somebody. So if you have like, I have an alleyway behind my backyard that never got put in, so it was vacated, and the people behind me got half of the vacated alleyway, and I received half. The same thing here. If we vacate the street, we have to give, now here it's simple, they own the front, they own the back. So obviously, they're going to get the whole thing. But again, I would vote to say we should do the vote, but I would say subject to the replat as, as a condition, and I'm sure council is going to agree with that also.
Thank you.
A couple questions.
Yep, Barry?
I guess first off, I'll ask them together, and then however you guys want to respond, but, how long has this presently been blocked off anyways? Because my understanding is that that road access has not really been given for Merchant Alley, at least since the fire over at the Mardi Gras building, and if not even perhaps before, with some bricks falling off. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is, I understand that the notice for the 2 adjacent property owners, but because of its nature there, it seems like that's generally used by the city, other people in the city, not just the people owning the 2 adjacent parcels. Has there been any other conversation with the city or other users in that area, perhaps from, kind of the surrounding community, as far as any issue if we close off that alley or don't have a secondary access other than just Broad Street there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's where I was looking to Assistant Chief Gall to really talk about how we've used it from a first responder standpoint, how have we utilized the road from a safety standpoint. You want to add any more comments? And I'll come to you, Mr. Hayden.
The smaller vehicles have used it. There's been injuries when people would try to walk and utilize the alley. So we have had medical calls. What compromises the alley, besides the hazard with the loose bricks, is that if owners would have deliveries, they could impede that alley by taking deliveries. So you never knew what you would get into when you pulled up to that road. So by an access road for fire trucks that need to be 20 feet wide, that would never have met that. And so we traditionally just bypass that. And other than the few medicals where you could get the squads down there, police vehicles, a lot of foot traffic. I think most vehicle traffic. And the turn on to Kerstetter Way was pretty sharp. That if you had traffic coming southbound from there, you had to be careful. And of course, people would be walking on the sidewalk. So that was another area of concern on Kerstetter.
And I'll get to your second question too in a second, Barry. Mr. Hayden, did you want to chime in on that?
My question was, the plats are going to be with the properties to the north, correct? They're all going to be added together, the new plat? It's not going to encompass everything that's currently owned. It's not going to encompass the properties that are fronting Broad Street, correct?
No, it will. Mr. Flanagan's entities own all of the property.
I know, but what I'm saying is one thing about America, nothing ever stays exactly the same. So later on, what if somebody wants to buy part of the properties that are on Broad Street? Does that, and then do they need to utilize that alley for the exact deliveries that you're talking about, so they're not taking parking places up for their businesses, in 40 years from now?
If I could add a little bit more color to the overall project, the structures to the north that were involved in the fire are not going to be rebuilt. It's going to be parking behind there. So there is going to be arguably more access to the rear side of the building moving forward. The intent is for the entire block to operate as the esports arena and some offices that go along with that. So at this time, there would be, all access would be combined with this total project, including the new parking that would go north of the structure.
Go ahead, Mr. Aiden.
So is there a way to say, that the city can put something in that if it changes, that and somebody buys this and needs to redevelop it, they can still have access to the back of it, just like I said, because maybe, I remember when Blockbuster was a big thing, right? I mean, we all do, where's that today? So the e-commerce or whatever might not be popular in 40 years from now or 50 years from now. I'm trying to look further down the road to make sure that there's still access to be able to get to the back of the buildings that are on Broad Street.
So if someone maybe, Mr. Schneider could speak to like the process for the construction, because there will come a point in our process when it comes to the lot consolidation and whatnot, where some of these things will be able to be addressed in terms of how things are split up and where things are located. There's another part of this process, right, that they still have to come before us to determine where there's going to be entry points and exit points and whatnot. Can you speak to that?
Yes, Mayor.
Chief Marcus, whomever is the
It's more so Daryl's wheelhouse, but,
okay,
ingress and egress for each building will still be required and when they come back to, Planning Commission. Even if it's my understanding, as Dawn stated, this is all going to be combined as one. And in order for them to resplit this, they would have to come back to this in the future. They'd have to come back here, and I'm sure access would be part of the discussion by whoever might be sitting in your seats.
So if once they come back, which to Jim's point around making this stipulated upon the consolidation, if someone down the road wanted to come and they say, oh man, we want to sell half of this, they're going to have to come before us and justify how they're going to split this thing up and provide those access points. So it'll get addressed through our process.
In today's world, you wouldn't even, Troxel was the building that burnt down, as if those who are old enough to remember Troxel. You couldn't even do that today because there was no parking. They parked in the Washington Avenue parking lot and walked up to work at the bicycle saddle factory. Mm-hmm. So if they did redevelop it, Mr. Aiden, you're right, they would have to come back, Planning Commission, replat it. You could have an access to the east and access to the west, depending on what that's going to be, which right now we have no knowledge. Right now it's going to be a one parcel usage for this entire project. And until somebody else came up with something different, that's what it will remain once we do this.
And then Barry, to your other question around the awareness of others throughout the city, I think we should think about how we could notify the general public of this as opposed to just those neighbors, because you're right. If the residents and other businesses down there have some feedback, they should be well aware that we're discussing this. So we'll talk about how they could be notified.
And just a point of clarification, this is only Merchants Alley between Kurtstetter and Washington. So it will not impact the other buildings or along east on Broad Street.
Yeah, to Barry's point, and then to Assistant Chief Gall's point, this alley has been used for a long time. Folks driving through, beep your horn when you get close to the end, cutting through. So it is something that impacts more people than just those folks. This has been it's been a staple, for lack of a better term. Any other questions from the committee? Any other comments from the committee? All right. Can I get a motion to get it on the floor?
I would move subject to a lot consolidation.
Yep. Oh, yep. And second by Mr. Aiden. So the motion is to vacation of Merchants Alley between Washington and Kurtstetter Way with a condition of a lot consolidation.
Of consolidating the neighbor or adjoining parcels, yes.
You'd want to replat that point, wouldn't you, because of the utilities, et cetera?
I would say if there's going to be utilities with easements, then yes.
Okay.
But if they're just going to vacate the easement, or eliminate those utilities as well, or take ownership of all of what's there, then I wouldn't need to have a plat, but
Okay. So at this point, just the lot consolidation would work, and then they'd come to planning commission again with their project.
yeah, depending on what they're gonna do, yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. That's all the business we have for today, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Aden,
Seconded?
second by Jim. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye, opposed,